It's McWinnie Inc. here again. So, just to continue on with the coffee theme. So, the Keurigs and things like that, they heat up the water and then they dispense the water through the pod, which gives you a hot cup of coffee. The coffee maker I have, the old school coffee maker, where is it? Let me see if I can see it. Turn the camera, turn the camera. The old style coffee makers like that. Let's see if I can see that. The old style coffee makers like that. Um, what you put in, the temperature of water you put in the coffee maker through the reservoir, see my past videos, is basically the same temperature you get out. So if you want to make an iced coffee, for example, and you don't want to go through all the trouble of freezing it or going to Tim Hortons, you can use a flavored coffee and put cold water or ice water through your coffee maker. I haven't tried this, but I imagine it would work the same. You put it through your coffee maker, and you might get a cool cup of coffee that's brewed. And then you can add some ice chips or just some ice cubes, a little bit of sugar, sweetener. Maybe if some cream or milk or coconut milk is good, or the flavored coffee mate stuff, or the that's good too. So for storing coffee, like I told you in an early video, I bought one of these today, the Tim Hortons uh, original brand. This is 400 grams, it says on the bottom here. So that's the weight. That's metric. So many of you know, even by the time you're 16, this is a parental adult. So a gram of weed is about that big, I'd say. So there's 400 of those in here, just to relate it, and that's metric. So I have these. I kind of got these from a friend of mine. His auntie died, and I inherited three sizes of these. You're supposed to, and I switched them out. So earlier today, I had tea in both of them because I didn't have any ground coffee. But I put all the tea in the big one, and I put pretty much this entire packet into the small one. And then I put the spoon. I told you that half a tablespoon for me works for 1 cup. I bury it, and the stem goes up into here, and then I close it. These old style things have great snaps, have great seals, unlike the new ones. Maybe you've got a grandmother or great grandmother who had a set of these. The third one can be used for sugar. Like I said, it's nice to honor the old things that people did, because everything comes back in style, and things like storing things properly, cooking things properly, um, canning, anything like that. Curing meats is great. I got some very bad shish kebabs from our meat skewers from the food bank. They upset my stomach very badly, so I put them on in the oven on on a cookie sheet and like a cooling rack, and I baked the crap out of them till they were like so dry that normally I wouldn't eat them. And then I made an Asian style soup that I called ugu soup. So EWW space GU ugu soup. And basically it means in no language other than my own, slippery when wet, because it was basically just water. And I put two or three of those little um, barbecue skews still on the stick that were like basically burnt, and I put them in the soup, basically water, and it was boiling water, and I cracked an egg into it, and the egg basically cooked in the water, so it had like a floating poached egg. I put a few vegetables in there, and the reason it's called slippery when wet is because the egg is quite slippery. It doesn't quite sit on the spoon right. It's a fun soup, and I slurped all over the place. It was a really fun soup, and what's the point to that story? Oh yeah, curing meats and drying meats is very traditional to the world because refrigeration didn't exist. So meats and fishes and sugars, everything went bad very quickly. And that's why grocers were on every corner, because people had to buy as they used them, like buy as they needed. You know, my mother tells this horrible story that some teenage girls poured sour milk down her throat. Can imagine how horrible that would be. And she was turned off milk for the rest of her life, because milk was basically left on the stoop, or the front porch, and it went rancid quickly, and maybe it wasn't the best quality when it went in the jar. Some lower class neighborhoods probably got the least quality milk, and the the more expensive people in the city probably got the better quality or the newer milk, and it didn't have the preservatives in it that it does now. And yeah, so it's good to keep these things alive, because these are really important. Keeping food dry, keeping it safe to eat, and being conscious of the bacteria. So I have a food handlers course. It was, if you have any kind of reading issues, or ADD, or just maybe you didn't do well in reading in school, Action Read, or there's often literacy places, but Action Read in Guelph on Cork Street, they will hold a class for a food handlers course, and then there's a computer exam that you can take right there. I did it for free. The language is quite complicated. The test is quite complicated. But basically, if you can do it, then you can work in any kitchen. You can work by yourself, which is really important in small kitchens or small um, restaurants, because maybe they can't afford to hire three staff, right? And so if you have a food handlers course, then you can basically work alone in a bakery or in a restaurant, and it just gives you more options for employment. That it's free training. I think it was a week long course, or 3 weeks just on Thursday. I don't know what, but it was maybe a week long course, and get a certificate and a laminated card, and it's very good to put on a resume. So yeah, and it teaches you the temperatures that you cook things into, so how hot the internal temperature of, say, chicken needs to be, because you can get very sick with salmonella undercooked chicken. When you take it out of the oven, what temperature to put it in the fridge, how long you can, like, yeah, just proper temperatures that things should be cooled at, what they should be served at, yeah, what temperature um, the internal should be, and yeah, so very handy to have, even if you're just running your own kitchen. So yeah, what was I think that was about it. Like I said, I substituted these. Both had tea. This one was getting low, so I put the tea in here, and then I put the entire cup of coffee in here. If I have a big tin of coffee, I put most of it in the big one, and then I put the leftover in the freezer to keep it fresh. And yeah, so just and like I said, whatever temperature of water you put in your coffee maker, the old school coffee makers, chances are that's approximately what you will get out of your coffee maker into the pot. So if you want a hot cup of coffee, then put hot water. If you want a cooler cup of coffee, you put cold water. Cheers.